Good morning. Get your snapping fingers ready. All right, we've been talking about direct objects. I need you to snap at me today because what I'm going to do is I'm going to read some sentences that come from a Bob Jones Journey Forth book called R.B. Jenkins. I'm going to read a few sentences, and as I read the sentences, when you hear the word that you think is the direct object, I want you to snap when I say that. Okay, and then I'll let you know if you're right or not, all right? All right, so you might hear a whole lot of this. I hope you can snap. I bet you can snap really well. All right, so here we go. Arby grabbed his mitt. Mitt. Did you get that? Grabbed. Arby. Arby grabbed what? Mitt. Here we go. The coach put Arby in right field. The coach put Arby in right field. Put, coach. Coach put who or what? Okay. Might be easier if I read the sentence twice, huh? Okay. The next one. The batter swung the bat. The batter swung the bat. Did you get bat? So, swung is a verb. Batter's a subject. Batter swung who or what? Bat. Here we go. Everyone heard a loud crack. Everyone heard a loud crack. Okay? Everyone heard crack. All right, here we go. Arby felt the sun on his face. Arby felt the sun on his face. Arby felt sun. Okay? Couple more. He squinted his eyes. He squinted his eyes. Eyes, okay, because he squinted eyes. All right, one more. He saw the little round ball on the ground. He saw the little round ball on the ground. Okay, he saw ball. All right, it's kind of hard to get those when you're listening to. When you look at them on paper, it's a little bit easier, but when you're hearing them, it's a little bit harder. All right, today we're going to learn about two things that really don't have much to do with direct objects, but that's okay. It's something that we still have to learn. We're going to be talking about contractions and double negatives. All right, so contractions are when we take a pronoun and usually a verb or adverb, and we put them together to make a new word. But we have to take some of the letters out, and we have to put an apostrophe to show where we left some of the letters out. So let's look at this one. So she is a pronoun plus will, which is a verb. She will becomes she'll. Notice how we left out the W and the I, and we put this apostrophe to show where we left those letters out. Okay, that's called a contraction. All right, here we have that is. Now this is called a demonstrative pronoun. It is a pronoun. This is a verb. So we're going to add these two together and we get that's. Notice what letter? We just leave one letter left out of is, just the I. And we put an apostrophe in its place just to show that we left out a letter or two. Sometimes two letters. Okay, sometimes it's a little different with not, but with not, we generally leave the O out and it becomes nt. I love to say that. Nt. Okay, we put the apostrophe where the O would be. See, here's the nt. Now, not is not a verb. Not is an adverb, which we'll learn more about that later on. But on these, we're adding a verb and adverb together. So are plus not gives you aren't. And then does plus not gives you doesn't. All right? Now, there are some there's at least one exception to the rule, and that would be won't. There's two, won't and can't. Now, if we have the word won't, okay, won't is spelled like this. It's actually short for will not. Now, if we didn't make it won't, it would be willn't. I willn't do that. And willn't just does not sound very good, does it? So won't is better. So won't is one of those exceptions. The other one is can't. And the reason that that's an exception is because it takes place of this word. We have to leave out an N and an O. Okay? Notice how we leave out this N and this O, and then we replace it with an apostrophe. So these are our exceptions. There's always an exception to the rule. We'll just call those the rebels. Okay, now there's one more thing I want to talk about, and this is called a double negative. And in Texas where we live, it's real easy to use a double negative. Now, let's look at the very bottom of that big yellow box on page 91 in your book. There's two oval-shaped rectangular things down at the bottom. Okay, it says negatives and positives on both sides of the boxes. Now, let's look at negatives. You have never, no, nobody, and no one. Positives, you have always, ever, any, anyone, everyone, someone. Okay, and on the other box, you've got none, nothing, nowhere. You've got all, one, some, anything. Some. Okay, you've got all those different ones. Now, the main thing is never use two negatives in a sentence. So, in other words, look at there's never and nothing. Let's use never and nothing. Now, I want you to see how this sounds. There's never nothing in this house to eat. Never nothing. See, those are double negatives, and you can't use those. You would say, there's never anything to eat in this house, is what you'd say. Okay, so I have to be real careful with that. So let's look at the guided practice on number 1. It says to write the contraction for each pair of words. So she is becomes she's. That's, they didn't have that up at the top. So she's would be, that's what you'd write. Because you would take the I out and you would replace it with an apostrophe. It becomes she's. Okay, number 2, have not. Remember, most of the time you take out the O, so have not would become haven't. So that's what you'd write for number 2. All right, the next section says underline the contraction, then write it in separate words. All right, so number 3, we're going to the mountains this weekend. Okay, we're becomes we are. Okay, because in we're you take out the R and you replace it with an apostrophe. Okay, all right, what about number 4? He'll run in the race tomorrow. What is that? What does he'll stand for? He will. All right, does that make sense to you? I hope it does. All right, look at number 5. It says to correct the double negative by deleting or replacing one of the underlined negatives. And this is write the new sentence. Okay, so here's the sentence with the double negative. There isn't nothing to do after school. Can you find the double negative? Now you see the word isn't is underlined, right? Now isn't stands for is not. And not is a negative, isn't it? So it's not and nothing. And you can't have two negatives in a sentence. No double negatives, even in Texas. There isn't nothing to do after school. What should the new sentence say? There's a couple of ways you can write it, but this is the way I would write it. There is nothing to do after school. There's one. Or okay, so notice I changed this to a positive. I changed this negative to a positive. I'm sorry, no, I took this negative away here. So you just can have one negative. You don't want to have two negatives in a sentence, if that makes sense to you. I think I just confused you. Okay, good deal. Let's look over at your work text, page 92. All right. So 1 through 6, you're going to underline the words that could form contractions, and then over on the side, you're going to write the contractions. Now, on the middle part, 7 through 10, you're going to underline the contractions in that paragraph, and then you're going to write them out as to what they are when they're not contractions. Okay? And then on 11 and 12, you're going to rewrite those sentences without the double negatives. Okay? Look at the apply and write. Do you show good sportsmanship when you play? Write a sentence using a contraction that tells what you should not be or should not do. And good sportsmanship is explained to you right there in that orange paragraph that you're going to read, okay? Make sure you read that. It's good to be a good sport at things. I used to tell my oldest son that when you play a game or you do anything with people, whether it's a game or anything you do, you always want to be a good sport about things. If you're not, nobody's ever going to want to play with you, okay? I think I just used a double negative, didn't I? Anyway, maybe I did. All right, so if you need any help, make sure and send me a message on Google Classroom, and I'll be happy to help you on it, okay? All right, so make sure you finish page 92 for your assignment, and it's going to be worth 12 points, okay? That's all for today.